Hey tankers, and welcome back to World of Tanks with PR154, where we are doing another episode of our Back to Basics introductory series covering off those vehicles in the formative tiers of World of Tanks. Today we are looking at the Tier 3 German light tank, the Panzer III Ausfarung E. This is, I guess, the vehicle that basically every German line will still pass through this one, with the exception of the light tank line heading on towards the Rheinmetall Panzerwagen. But every other class, be it artillery, medium tanks, heavy tanks, tank destroyers, will pass through Panzer IIIe. So it's a good tank to get to grips with. It is classified as a light tank, but it does play for tier a lot more like a medium tank. Its armor is still not fantastic as a light tank. It's probably just good enough to fend off autocannon shells from enemy light tanks, so you can use it as in an anti-light sort of role. And that's kind of sort of what we've done here with our initial position. We've driven into, if I can get a cursor, here we go. We've driven into this position here. We've got a bit of cover, and now we can sort of poke out and we can spot and engage some of the enemy light tanks. Now we're also able to dispatch that T-70 rather quickly thanks to the high damage per minute that this vehicle possesses, which is again I guess more of a medium tank sort of quality, but we'll still use it nonetheless. Now this has a 5cm main armament. It dishes out a shell that does 70 hit points of damage, and will throw that down range every 2.5 seconds. Of course, you can enhance that with crew skills and equipment. Each shell penetrates for 60mm with the standard stuff, although you can upgrade that to 96mm with the APCR. So things are stagnating a little bit for us. Everyone's sort of finding their way into their respective positions. I guess what we see is that the enemy is doing a more concerted push through the town, so we're going to move to try to reinforce that. This may be a little bit of a mistake at this point, however, but at the very least we want to try to get some crossfire onto this B1, at least try to blunt the depth of the enemy advance. Fortunately, our teammate in the Sturmgeschütz 3B has been able to knock out the B1. We do a quick poke around this corner. Okay, there's a few enemy tanks there. Really don't want to hang around there. We've got a seal clubber in the Panzer S35, so we don't really want to hang around with that. They've sort of made their intentions of this match pretty clear, throwing the gold at us straight away. So we're probably not going to do too much good on that flank, so we're going to push around. And the mobility of this vehicle, this is actually the second fastest light tank at Tier 3, so you can use that to reposition rather effectively. Now we do have what appears to be a bit of numerical superiority over the enemy here. So by throwing our gun and our damage per minute into the mix here, we might be able to achieve a better effect on the battle. Now we have to remember we are bottom tiered here, so invariably that means vehicles that have more hit points, that have more firepower, I guess all those things that come with up tiering, I guess. We're trying to get some flanking shots onto that Cruiser 3. A bit of a silly poke that was made there, but that was an AI vehicle signified by the colons that are either side of what appears to be a nation-specific but rather generic-looking first and last name. All right, so we only have 5 vehicles in this quarter. The mini-map's indicating there are maybe 4 on the enemy team. It's not a huge majority. We're facing off against this M3 Stuart that interestingly opened up by firing high explosive at us, which I thought was a little bit unusual, but I'll allow it. They're swinging and missing quite a few of their shots, so we're able to ultimately knock it out just by being able to do meaningful damage, 70 hit points at a time with our 5cm main armament. Our Panzer IIIJ is looking to wrap up this Panzer 1C. There is another Panzer 1C out in the field, also a Su-76M, Tier 4 tank destroyer, so we need to be a little bit careful about that. I think knocking out this Panzer 1C as soon as possible will certainly limit their ability to light us up and have some of these more well-concealed tank destroyers knocking us out from afar. A swing and a miss against the Panzer 1C. Accuracy and precision, not a strong suit of the 5cm main gun. It has a base dispersion of 0.46 meters per 100 meters, which is a little bit on the high side. In many ways, the role of this vehicle is basically using its mobility, using its damage per minute to sort of rush into a forward position, and then basically try to out DPM enemy light tanks. It's a medium tank playstyle that I guess, yeah, primary task and purpose there being able to bully, harass, and ultimately knock out other light tanks. Now we have a firing angle on this Matilda. Although whether that's going to be any good to us or not remains to be seen. Matilda is one of the most well-armoured vehicles at tier. In fact, we've even switched to the premium ammunition. We're trying to look for green on our penetration indicator, but we really aren't finding it. Oh, there we go. We managed a penetrating hit there. Another shot for good measure, but premium shells aren't cheap, and we don't want to be sending them down to blind fire against an enemy that had proven quite resistant to them in the first place. So we'll keep rolling around. We might be able to reacquire them, might even be able to knock out that Panzer 1C, although we are aware that there was the Su-76 tank destroyer in this area as well, so we need to be a little bit mindful of that. I did rubbish the accuracy of this weapon before, but if you give it the time to dial in, magic can happen. So I managed to get the jump on the Su-76M, so we'll keep running around using our mobility to get past it faster than it can turn around. Now the only problem with that is, to get around that, we've exposed ourselves to the Matilda, so we're kind of stuck here, and now we're immobilized and caught in a DPM slinging match with a tank destroyer of higher tier, unfortunately coming off second best with that one. But we have left it in a one-shottable position to pretty well most of the friendly vehicles on our team. Broadly speaking, we have a significant edge over the enemy now. Two in terms of guns, but more significantly in our hit point position. We probably have 3 to 4 times the number of hit points in the game at this point in time. A Stridsvan M40L knocking out the SU5 self-propelled gun. And we're now just spectating on the Sturmgeschütz 3B as it makes its way through the town. We've got our self-propelled gun ready and able from the back. I don't believe you can get this vehicle off the tech tree anymore, and I think you need to be. I think you need to go to the collector's section to pick up this this German self-propelled gun. But anyway, back to the Stridsvan M40L. It's having a few swings and misses against the enemy Matilda. We have to be mindful that the Su-76 is still in the fight. It was actually able to knock out the Stridsvan shortly after we left the camera. So Sturmgeschütz 3B is chasing down the Matilda. Now, obviously, oddly enough, the Matilda not facing the Stug 3B, and the Stug 3B is able to take on the best possible armor facing of this enemy Matilda, even bouncing a shell from its 2-pounder. But that 2-pounder, it's practically a machine gun, has a very high rate of fire, good penetration as well. So once that gun locks onto you and it starts firing, it can be pretty difficult to escape. T-34 1941 trying to knock out the enemy Panzer 1C, doing so under fire from the Su-76M as well. Has been able to get one over the Tier 3 German light tank, but is ultimately knocked out by the Tier 4 Soviet tank destroyer, which is in turn knocked out by the Tier 4 German self-propelled gun. This just leaves the one enemy Matilda that was caught up in that little dance that we did with the Su-76 earlier in the game. Fortunately, our Matilda has a significant advantage of hit points here. It has remained mercifully untouched throughout the entire game. So the enemy Matilda is now in a 2-shuttle position for our Matilda. So this is a Tier 4 British tech tree vehicle. We'll cover this one in another Back to Basics series. But yeah, it's certainly an armoured powerhouse. Has this 2-pound main armament that has very good penetration, very high rate of fire, and it can, while its damage per shot is quite low, only about 50 hit points, it's just a sort of withering rate of fire that just takes bite after bite out of your armor and just cannot be ignored. Certainly not by this enemy Matilda, as 2 more shots are going to send it back to the garage. Seeing a bit of side profile on that enemy Matilda, which is, in theory, should have presented a more penetrable facing. But now we're starting to bite, and the last enemy Matilda goes back to the garage. So that is it for us. That is a victory from bottom tiered for us in the now destroyed Panzer IIIe. Let's take a quick look at the results. So for our efforts there, that was a level 2 badge of mastery, which is indicative of our experience points being within the top 80% of players in this vehicle for that week. We picked up a couple of badges of merit as well. We picked up the Bruiser Medal for causing damage to enemy vehicle modules or crew members at least 5 times in the course of the battle. We picked up the Duelist Medal for destroying at least 2 enemy vehicles that have caused damage to us in turn, and the Fire for Effect Medal for doing at least our hit points in damage. Now we had 425 hit points on the vehicle, but we were able to inflict over 1,300 hit points of damage upon the enemy team. We've also been able to take 3 kills. Having a look at the team scores, we hadn't placed top on experience in this particular game. Top honours there going to the Sturmgeschütz 3 Ausfarung B, driven by Rumpelstiltskin 9372 of the Attack Clan. Special mention on the enemy team to the Su-76M, who caused over 2,100 hit points of damage, almost as much as our top scorer, and was able to knock out 5 of our team, including yours truly. Having a look at the detailed report, we had quite a profitable game, and these games at lower tiers can be quite profitable for us. A couple of disclaimers on this one, however. Battle Payments was active at the time, so that is a clan booster. So overall, it was a profit of about 15,000 credits. There was a little bit of premium ammunition fired that had affected the auto resupply ammunition bill, but I mean, realistically, had we continued to be plinking the standard AP fecklessly off the side of the Matilda, we wouldn't have made any sort of contribution to our team. And that Matilda at the end would have had to have worked that much harder to try to chip away at the enemy Tilly. So that's the Tier 3 German light tank, Panzer III Ausfarung. Well, it's almost poetry there. We'll be covering other vehicles of the formative tiers of the respective tech trees, so please check out the Wix article for these tech trees in the link below this video, and take care out there.